Monster by Walter Dean Myers. This reading begins on page 45 of the text. Tuesday, July 7th. Notes. I can hardly think about the movie. I hate this place so much. But if I didn't think about the movie, I would go crazy. All they talk about in here is hurting people. If you look at somebody, they say, "What you looking at me for? I'll mess you up." If you make a noise they don't like, they say they'll mess you up. One guy has a knife. It's not really a knife, but a blade glued onto a toothbrush handle. I hate this place. I hate this place. I can't write it enough times to make it look the way I feel. I hate this place. Cut to interior courtroom. Wendell Bolden is on the stand. He's average height, but heavily built with large, ashy hands. He acts like he's mad and wants everybody to know it. Petrocelli. Mr. Bolden, have you ever been arrested? Bolden. Yeah, for B&E and possession with intent. Petrocelli. Possession is obviously drugs and the intent to distribute. Can you tell the jury what B and E means? Bolden. B&E. Breaking and entering. Petrocelli. And what were you in for when you spoke to Mr. Zinzi? Bolden. Assault. Petrocelli. But the charges were dropped? Bolden. Yeah, they were dropped. Petrocelli. Can you tell us about the conversation between you and Mr. Zinzi? Bolden. I got some cigarettes from a guy who told me he was in on a drugstore robbery up on Malcolm X Boulevard. I knew a dude got killed, and I was thinking of trading what I knew for some slack. Petrocelli. As a matter of fact, didn't Mr. Zinzi also try to use that information himself? Bolden. He called the detective he knew. Petrocelli. Can you name the person involved in the robbery? Briggs. Objection. You can testify to the conversation, not the robbery, unless he was there. Petrocelli. Withdrawn. So who gave you the information that he was involved in a robbery? Bolden. Bobo Evans. Camera pans to King, who gives Bolden a dirty look. Cut to exterior stoop on 141st Street. There was a small tricycle on the sidewalk. It is missing one wheel. The garbage cans at the curbs are overflowing. 3 young girls jump rope near the trash. James King and Steve are sitting on the steps. A heavy woman, Peaches, sits slightly above them, and a thin man, Johnny, stands. He is smoking a blunt. King, almost a drawl. I need to get paid, man. I ain't got nothing between my butt and the ground but a rag. Steve, I hear that. Peaches, you can't even hardly make it these days. Talking about cutting welfare, cutting Social Security, and anything else that makes life a little easy. Might as well bring back slavery times, if you ask me. King, if I had a crew, I could get paid. All you need is a crew with some heart and a nose for the cash. Peaches, banks is where the money is. Johnny, nah, bank money is too serious. A man comes down hard for bank money. You need to find a get-over where nobody don't care, you know what I mean? You cop from somebody with a green card or an illegal, and they don't even report it. Peaches. Restaurant owners got money too. That's the only things left in our neighborhood. Restaurants, liquor stores, and drugstores. King. What you got, young blood? Steve. What's up at King? I don't know. Johnny. Yo, what's your name? Steve. Since when you been down? Cut to interior courtroom. Bolden is still on the stand. Bolden. So he turned me on to 2 cartons for $5 each. I asked him how he copped, and he said he was in a robbery in a drugstore. I didn't say no more because all I wanted was to smoke. Petrocelli. Did he tell you when the store was robbed? Bolden. He said it just went down. Petrocelli. And when did this conversation take place? Bolden. The day before Christmas. I remember that because I gave a carton of cigarettes to my mom's as a present. Petrocelli. No further questions. Briggs. How well do you know Mr. Evans? Bolden. I know him when I see him. Briggs. Did you know him before Christmas? Bolden. Not really. Briggs. Let's see now. You don't know this man, and yet when you ask him where he got the cigarettes, he's going to tell you that he got them from a holdup in which he was involved and in which a man was killed. Bolden. If he wants to run his mouth, that's his business. Briggs. Didn't you think it strange that a man would give out information that could be harmful to him if he had actually been involved in this case? Cut to close-up of juror looking bored. Cut to close-up of Bolden. Bolden, hey, I don't even care. Briggs, your assault charge was dropped, is that correct? Bolden, yeah. Briggs, the maximum sentence for the assault was how long, do you know? Bolden, I wasn't convicted. Briggs, do you know the maximum sentence? Petrocelli, objection, Judge. Overruled, it's pertinent. Briggs, so you saved yourself some heavy jail time by pointing a finger at Mr. King, isn't that right? Bolden, I just wanted to do the right thing, like a good citizen. Briggs, showing anger. You were in jail trying to be a good citizen? Or you're really just trying to get out of jail and not caring who you put in? Isn't that what you're really doing? Well, isn't it? Petrocelli, objection. Defense counsel is stepping over his bounds. Judge, this is a good time for a break. I have some administrative tasks to get done this afternoon. Let's adjourn until tomorrow. I want to remind the jury not to discuss the case with anyone. We'll reconvene 9 a.m. tomorrow. Cut to Interior Detention Center. It is night. The lights are out except for dim night lights placed along the walls. You hear the sounds of fists methodically punching someone as the camera goes slowly down the corridor, almost seeming to look for the source of the hitting. You see two inmates silhouetted, beating a third. Another inmate is on lookout. Cut to close-up of Steve lying on his cot. The sounds are in his cell, but he is not the one being beaten. We see the whites of his eyes, then we see him close his eyes as the sounds of the beating stop, and the sounds become those of a sexual attack against the inmate who was beaten. Fade out. Fade in. Interior. Steve's home. It is neatly furnished. Clean. Steve is watching TV with 11-year-old Jerry, his brother. Jerry, you ever want to be a superhero? Save people and stuff? Steve, sure. You know what I'd want to be? Superman. I'd be wearing glasses and stuff, and people would be messing with me, and then I'd kick butt. Jerry, would you be a cool superhero? You know who you should be? Steve. Who? Jerry. Batman. And I could be Robin. Steve gives Jerry a brotherly shove. Fade out. Wednesday, July 8th. They take away your shoelaces and your belt so you can't kill yourself, no matter how bad it is. I guess making you live is part of the punishment. It's funny, when I'm sitting in the courtroom, I don't feel like I'm involved in the case. It's like the lawyers and the judge and everybody are doing a job that involves me, but I don't have a role. It's only when I go back to the cells that I know I'm involved. Ms. O'Brien says that Petrocelli is using Bolden's testimony as part of a trail that will lead to me and James King. I think she is wrong. I think they're bringing out all of these people and letting them look terrible on the stand and sound terrible and then reminding the jury that they don't look any different from me and King. I like the last scene in the movie, the one between me and Jerry. It makes me seem like a real person. The man they called Sunset asked me if he could read the screenplay, and I let him. He liked it. Sunset said he liked the name of the screenplay. He said when he gets out, he will have the word monster tattooed on his forehead. I feel like I already have it tattooed on mine. A preacher came to the recreation room with a guard this afternoon. He asked if anyone wanted to talk with him or share a moment of prayer. Two guys said they did, and I was just about ready to say I would when Lynch, a guy who was going on trial for killing his wife, started cursing at the preacher and saying that everybody wanted to talk to him and act like they were good when they were just criminals. It's too late to put up your holy front now, he said. In a way, he was right, at least about me. I want to look like a good person. I want to feel like I'm a good person, because I believe I am. But being in here with these guys makes it hard to think about yourself as being different. We look about the same. Even though I'm younger than they are, it's hard not to notice that we were all pretty young. I see what Miss O'Brien meant when she said part of her job was to make me look human in the eyes of the jury. When Lynch started cursing at the preacher, the guards took the preacher out, and then they came back and turned the television off and made us go back to our cells. Notes. I couldn't sleep most of the night after the dream. The dream took place in the courtroom. I was trying to ask questions and nobody could hear me. I was shouting and shouting, but everybody went about their business, as if I wasn't there. I hope I didn't shout out in my sleep. I would look weak to everybody. It's not good to be weak in here. Every morning we get up and put on our court clothes. The talk is lawyer talk, with all the older guys talking about appeals and mistakes that the judge made. I feel terrible. My stomach is gassy and bloated. I still can't go to the bathroom in front of everyone. When we got in the court, there was a delay because the stenographer had brought the wrong power cord. The court officer was talking about termites. Fade in. Courtroom. Steve and King are cuffed to a bench. Court officers Petrocelli, stenographer, Judge, Briggs, and O'Brien are present. Officer 1. So this guy comes to the house and tells Vivian we got termites. I get home and she's all upset. I said, no way we got termites. No way. Judge, you ever see any termites? Officer 1, what the heck's a termite look like? O'Brien, like an ant with wings. Officer 1, and I've never seen one. Officer 2, I heard they hide in the wood. Judge, what I don't understand is why they have wings if they stay in the wood. Petrocelli, are you going to let us do the affidavit on the crime scene? Judge, any objections? Briggs, who's going to read it in court? Judge, the clerk. Briggs, no objections. O'Brien, what's with the detective? Petrocelli, he's having problems with a hemorrhoid operation. Briggs, wait, I didn't know that. Maybe we can keep him on the stand for an hour or two. Cut 2, close-up of Petrocelli. Petrocelli, Detective Karyl, can you describe the scene when you entered the drugstore? Close-up, Karyl. Karyl, it was pretty gruesome. Cut to interior. Camera pans down aisles of neighborhood drugstore. Cut to MS of Jose Delgado. He moves in slow motion. He is pale, glancing nervously at a point out of sight of camera. He's explaining something to Detective Karyl, who stands leaning against counter. The detective is heavy, stooped. Cut to a shot of open cash register. Cut to courtroom. Petrocelli, are these the pictures you took at that time? Karyl, the crime scene photographer took them. O'Brien, may I see them? MS, Petrocelli hands pictures to O'Brien, who places them before her on desk. Cut to close-up of photos. We see legs of the slain drugstore owner, Nesbitt. Cut to black and white shots from various angles of body in grotesque position. Pictures flash in an increasingly contrasty and grainy format. They are hardly recognizable. Petrocelli, Detective Karyl, when you discovered the body, were there any signs of life in the victim? Karyl, no, but I called the emergency medical service. It's a standard procedure. Petrocelli, and you noted the open cash register? Karyl, that's correct. And at that time I asked the clerk, was there anything else missing? Often in these cases you might find some cough medicine missing or some attempt to open a restricted drugs case. There's a market for drugs of any kind. Petrocelli, did you look for other clues, and did you find any? Karyl, we looked for other clues, but we didn't actually find anything. Petrocelli, eventually you began questioning suspects in this case. How did you come across the suspects? Karyl, questioned a number of people we felt might have some knowledge of the crime. Then we received a tip from a person who claimed he knew what happened to the cigarettes. Petrocelli, that would be Mr. Zinzi? Karyl, that's correct. He told us about Mr. Bolden. Then Mr. Bolden told us about Mr. Evans and Mr. King. Petrocelli, and both Zinzi and Bolden had their own motives in doing this. Karyl, we often use information from informants, especially in murder cases. Petrocelli, and did you talk to Mr. King? Karyl, to Mr. King and to some of his associates. Fade out. Fade in, interior, 20th precinct. Steve is sitting on a long, dark bench. He is dressed in cut-off sneakers and a t-shirt. There's a basketball on the floor near him. Detective Karyl is sitting across from Steve. He's eating a cheeseburger. Sometimes he talks with his mouth full. A black detective, Arthur Williams, sits on the edge of the table. He is dressed much as Steve is and looks only a few years older. Karyl, they're saying that you pulled the trigger. King said the score was over, but you turned back and shot Nesbitt. Why did you do that? I can't figure it. Steve, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I didn't do any stick-up. Karyl, you figured you didn't want to leave any witnesses, I guess. Williams, what are we playing this with this guy for? We don't need him. We got the case locked. Karyl, the DA is thinking death penalty. Williams, death penalty? Chances are the judge will push for life without parole. And if they come clean, he might even go for 25 to life. You save a lot of time and money that way. Karyl, I don't know. The victim was well respected in the neighborhood. Hard-working black guy, worked his way up, even sponsored a Little League team. The judge could go for the death penalty if they plead not guilty. Williams, this guy's only 16. It won't kill him. Karyl, what are you, a pessimist? Hope for the best. Cut to weird shot of interior, death row. Steve is walking down the hallway between two guards. He is brought into the death chamber. The guards are pale, almost greenish. They lay Steve on the table for the lethal injection and strap him down. Close-up of Steve's face. He is terrified. VO. His camera focuses on Steve's face. Open your legs. We have to plug up your butt so you don't mess yourself as you die. Steve's face grimaces with pain as they put in the plug. Cut to interior courtroom. Karyl is still on stand as Briggs cross-examines. Cut to interior jail. An older prisoner sits on the john, his pants around his ankles. Older prisoner. They gotta give you some time. The guy dies and you get time. That's the deal. Why the hell should you walk? And don't give me young. Young don't count when a guy dies. Why should you walk? Steve. Because I'm a human being. I want a life too. What's wrong with that? Older prisoner. Nothing, but there's rules you gotta follow. You do the crime, you do the time. You act like garbage, they treat you like garbage. Prisoner 2. Yo man, you acting like a preacher or something, but guess where you at? This ain't no hotel. Older prisoner. But I ain't complaining. Prisoner 2. Suppose he innocent. Older prisoner. You innocent? Steve. Yes. Older prisoner. Yeah, well, somebody got to do some time. They lock somebody up. Prisoner 3. How's he going to say he's innocent? That's why they're holding the trial, so the jury can say if he's innocent or not. What he says now don't even count. Older prisoner. Whatever. Anyone got a newspaper? Fade out. Fade in. Interior waiting room. O'Brien enters and sits on bench with Steve. Steve's wrist is handcuffed to bench. O'Brien, indicating cuffs. This wasn't necessary. Steve, they just like to show they're in charge. How do you think the trial is going? O'Brien, it could be going better. Steve, surprised. What's wrong? O'Brien, well, frankly, nothing is happening that speaks to your being innocent. Half of those jurors, no matter what they said when we questioned them when we picked the jury, believed you were guilty the moment they laid eyes on you. You're young, you're black, and you're on trial. What else do they need to know? Steve, I thought you were supposed to be innocent until you're proven guilty. O'Brien, that's true, but in reality it depends on how the jury sees the case. If they see it as a contest between the defense and the prosecution as to who's lying, they'll vote for the prosecution. The prosecutor walks around looking very important. No one is accusing her of being a bad person. They're accusing you of being a monster. The jury can ask itself, why should the prosecutor lie? Our job is to show that she's not lying, but she simply made a mistake. How are you feeling? Is your stomach still upset? Steve, a little better. O'Brien, this afternoon we have an important witness scheduled. This Osvaldo Cruz character. What do you know about him? Cut to exterior, neighborhood stoop. 14-year-old Osvaldo Cruz is slim, well-built. He has a tattoo of a devil's head on his left forearm and a tattoo of a dagger on the back of his right hand between the thumb and forefinger. Freddie Alu, 16 and tough, sits fiddling with a beeper he is trying to repair. Steve is sitting with him. Freddie to Steve, what school you go to? Osvaldo, he goes to that faggot school downtown. All they learn there is how to be a faggot. Freddie, you let him diss you like that, man? Osvaldo, we don't have no choice. He messed with me and the Diablos will burn him up. Ain't that right, faggot? Steve, I can kick your narrow butt any day in the week. Osvaldo, well, here it is, so why don't you come and kick it? Freddie, you better chill. He hangs with some bad dudes. Osvaldo, he don't hang with nobody. He's just a lame looking for a name. Ain't that right, Steve? Ain't that right? Steve, why don't you shut up? Osvaldo, you ain't got the heart to be nothing but a lame. Everybody knows that. You might be hanging out with some people, but when the deal goes down, you won't be around. Steve, yeah, and you will be, huh? Cut to interior courtroom. Osvaldo is on the stand. Osvaldo, softly, timidly. So Boba said to me if I didn't help him, he'd cut me up. Cut to Steve writing on pad. Close up. Osvaldo. Osvaldo. He said he would cut me up and get my mom's, too. I was, like, really scared of him. Petrocelli. Have you ever seen Bobo hurt anyone? Osvaldo. Already messed up a dude in the projects. Briggs. Objection. Judge. Sustained. Petrocelli. You know as a matter of fact if Bobo has hurt anyone in the hood? Briggs. Objection. Unless the prosecutor is going to pass out glossaries to the jury, I want her to use standard English. Judge. Overruled. Osvaldo. He told me he did some time for cutting a guy in the projects. Petrocelli. You know how old Bobo is? Osvaldo. 22. Petrocelli. And how old are you, Osvaldo? Briggs. Objection. Why are we suddenly on a first-name basis? Petrocelli. And how old are you, Mr. Cruz? Osvaldo. 14. Petrocelli. You live on 144th Street. Is that correct? Osvaldo. Yeah, across from the school. Petrocelli. I'm going to give you a series of names, and you will tell me if you know any of them. James King? Osvaldo. Yeah, that's him at that table in the blue suit. Petrocelli. Let the record indicate that Mr. Cruz has identified Mr. King. Steve Harmon? Osvaldo. He's the black guy sitting at the other table. Petrocelli. Let the record show that Mr. Cruz has identified Steve Harmon. Turning back to Osvaldo. All right. Mr. Evans or Bobo make a proposition to you? Briggs. Leading. Petrocelli. Your Honor, Mr. Cruz is a juvenile. Briggs. He's hostile? He's a juvenile. You mean to say he's hostile? Petrocelli. No, but you are. Judge, that's not necessary, Miss Petrocelli. You haven't established Mr. Cruz as a hostile witness. Petrocelli. Mr. Cruz, how real did you think Mr. Evans, Bobo's threat was? Osvaldo. I thought it was the real deal. You know, like I thought he would mess me up. Petrocelli. Were you afraid of Mr. King? Briggs. Objection. If she wants to testify instead of the witness, fine. Swear her in. But you can't leave the witness like that. Judge. Sustained. Petrocelli. Did you participate in this robbery? Osvaldo. Yes, I did. Petrocelli. Why? Osvaldo. Because I was afraid of them. They were all older than me. Petrocelli. Who exactly were you afraid of? Bobo, James King, and Steve Harmon. Petrocelli. And was Bobo the only one who actually threatened you? Briggs. There she goes again. Judge. Where's she going? That's not leading. You think that's leading? Look, I think it's a good time for a break, folks. Maybe we'll all be a bit more civil after a good night's sleep. Long shot as the jury files out. Then the guards come and cuff Steve and James King. MS of Osvaldo passing Steve. The two young men look at each other for a brief instant. Then Osvaldo turns away. Fade to black. Stopping on page 88.